I would say most times your instincts are right about people.
Mm.
Do not be afraid to test people more. I would say anybody is capable of doing anything, so do not be so sure about people. I would tell myself that no matter the challenges that you face, the first person to go to is God.
So, you know how we say that not all heroes have capes. Today, I'm happy to introduce one such hero who has no cape. And she happens to be a friend of mine. And I've watched her as she goes about her daily living. And she is such an inspiration. So I've asked her to come share her story with us. Hopefully, we will glean some nuggets of wisdom from her. Hello, Vicky.
Hi, Hannah. That was such an enlightening introduction. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria Ansah. So, first of all, I'm a woman of God. I am a mother of 4. I'm a medical doctor, general practitioner. I'm a single parent.
So Victoria is an international medical graduate. She's originally from Ghana. She forgot to add that. I'm adding that for her. So tell us a bit, Vicky. Did you always want to be a doctor?
I would say 70%. 70% in that when I was young, so my dad is a medical doctor as well. He's a pediatric endocrinologist, Boston Medical, recently retired. So I used to watch medical videos with him as a child. I remember when I was like 3, 4 years old, we used to watch medical videos together. I didn't choose a profession because of him though. So I've always been interested in science, particularly drawing. So I think in most aspect of my life, drawing overshadowed the science bit.
So am I right? You grew up in Kumasi, which is in the Ashanti region of Ghana, and had
Yep.
most of your education there.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then went on to University of Science and Technology in Kumasi as
Also in
well.
Kumasi. Yes.
How was your experience in medical school?
It was tough. Because I came late. So I think I came a week or 2 late in starting medical school. So by the time I got into medical school, people had already formed their study group, they had already formed their niche. That time, people that I had come around with were Nigerian students. And we really blended in so well. And I think for 2 weeks, they thought I was a Nigerian student. So they used to come to me with every question. So it took 2 weeks for them to find out that no, this is not Nigeria. This is a
It's a
Ghanaian.
local breed.
Breed. I
So
think
can I
that
ask, why did you come in late?
so it was some admission procedure that we had to follow. I didn't get the hostel as well, and so I used to trek. So even when I started, I came for some classes, but I couldn't because I wasn't in the hostel. I had to go all the way back home. And that was a great impediment because most study groups met in the evening time. Yeah.
On campus?
Yeah. And so by the time I was fully in, I think it took about 4 to 6 weeks for me to have a hostel. It's like, where are you coming from? You know that kind of vibe. You are late in coming here. We don't want you in our study group. And that was majority of what happened. So I got very comfortable in the Nigerian clique because they didn't look at me like, why are you late? Why were you? So, yeah. And I had a friend, her dad was also a doctor who was in the same SMS with my dad. So we knew each other when we were basically babies because we grew up in the doctor's flat. And then we didn't reconnect till we came to medical school. So she was basically my go-to person. And then she also liked our Nigerian clique. So it was 2 of us in the midst of Nigerians. So yeah, that was medical school.
But isn't it disheartening that it was your own that actually rejected you, quote and unquote,
Yeah, yeah. But so in life, I've tried not to. At that time, I was a bit hurt because I remember that there was even a medical student who was in my same floor. And then I asked, can I join your study group? And she's like, no. It was hard. Finding my way was difficult. It was a struggle because there were some aspects that I didn't know in terms of books, in terms of resources. Some older colleagues were trying to direct me, but I think I didn't have a full grasp of where to start, how it would end. So it was very challenging in navigating. Along the way, some people heard what I'd gone through. So they tried, putting me in some groups. But I think that sometimes it depends on how people perceive you, how people click with you, how you click with people. Because sometimes some people can be with you for all the wrong reasons, not the right reasons. So when people are coming to me and they're saying, okay, I'm going to medical school, I'm starting university, I tell them that please know yourself first so that if you don't know yourself, you wouldn't know what triggers you. You wouldn't know the connections, whether the people are coming for you, or it's because of something you have to offer, or it's because of certain things that you have. You have to know who you are so that you're able to know that, okay, this person is a good connection. This person knows me. I also know this person, and I feel like we'll be able to connect in some way. For me, I believed in opening up. So I used to be an open book, but I've realized that the fact that you don't think negative about other people doesn't mean that they're also going to do the same for you. So it took lots of trials and errors for me to know the people that I can really connect with. There are some people that I would call friends in that I'll be able to share, they're able to share, and I know that they are not going to go out there, not gossip, but they have my best interest at heart. But that would really mean that you have to be discerning. So I tell people to really be discerning. Start with some small things first and know how the person reacts, how the person takes it, before you actually go into your story with people. So that was it for me. I tell
Wow.
people that be honest about yourself. There are some people that it's just maybe a professional, so there are some people that you can just do group study with. It doesn't have to get personal, and you don't have to be worried that they don't connect with you as such. There are some people that you can form study groups with, and then you realize that it's beyond that. You had a deeper level of connection and friendship. So some of these people that I was with in medical school, we've remained friends till now. There were some people that initially we didn't really connect, but later on in the year, we realized that same values, similar situations, we are able to encourage each other. And then we found that, oh, we really blend well. Do
And
you,
then
do
you
you
got
get
something.
it? Yeah.
So medical school to you was beyond anatomy and physiology. It was proper a school of life. And it
It
taught
was
you
a
a lot
school of
about
life.
yourself and learning to read people as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've done 6 years of medical school. Should we go through housemanship or
Yeah.
how was that?
Housemanship was an enlightening experience for me.
Mhm.
I learned, I think I was lucky to have my first year in Comfort Noche. So, I mean, I did my clinical education in Comfort Noche. So, there were lots
Which
of
is also in
familiar
Kumasi.
faces. Yes, which is classic. So, lots of familiar faces, especially senior colleagues that I had admired
Yeah.
during my clinical years. So I got to engage with them, learn from them, and just try and incorporate what I have learned and also some of their skills as well. So, but at that time, I didn't develop my surgical skills. So, first year house job, I did internal medicine and then I did obs and gynae. I was privileged enough to be under, supervisorship of some doctors who are my dad's age mates, and then some nurses who also went to nursing school with my mom. So it's like you can't hide. I was that kind of person that throughout medical school, like everybody knew me with just my name. You are the daughter of this. So, if they didn't have good relationship with your dad, it's reflected on you. If they had great relationship with your dad or your mom, then it's good. So advantages and disadvantages.
Yes, it comes. It
Um,
comes certainly with its pros and cons, isn't it?
yeah, it
But
comes.
you did still manage through housemanship. Tell me, had any baby come before that,
I was
or
going to say that. So yeah, I at that time I had gotten married and so pregnant. It was it was very frustrating because I had nausea, vomiting. You had night duty. That was during internal medicine years. It was it was challenging. So I went for a break. I came to second year house job that was at Tech Hospital, King Western Hospital. And so that was when it continued. I did general surgery and pediatrics at the KNUST Hospital. By the time it was my surgical rotation, I had developed tenosynovitis. And so it was so painful after the baby. So I had to be injected with steroids. Otherwise, I couldn't even write my notes or I couldn't even operate. But yeah, my supervisor was nice. He understood my struggle. So after my hands got better, then I was able to have that surgical experience. But my most surgical experience was when after house job when I went to the district. That was a significant turning point for me. I never knew that I would be so involved with obs and gynae until I went to the district. So the supervisor that I was under, it was Dr. Selkuta, I'll never forget him. He said, Mommy, first time you're observing, second time you're assisting, third time you're cutting.
ooh, that was quick.
He's here. And before I went there, he was the only doctor. And
Which district is this?
it was in Twase, and it was a large catchment area. So we were covering a lot. So when I got there, he's like, you need to really buckle up because right now we are the only two doctors. We are covering this. So that's why I need to develop your surgical hands because there are some women who would come to the district. Once you tell them that, once there is no doctor to handle the cesarean section, you ask them to go to Confanochi, they start crying. And they
Yes.
start crying because they don't know anyone in Kumasi. It's such a big area for them. So
How
they
far
panic.
is the area to Kumasi? What's the
It,
distance? How
it,
far?
it used to be, without traffic, it used to be an hour and a half. And the road work was poor at that time. So now it really wasn't even the aspect of the distance, but it was about they don't have any relatives there. Some people they don't have any relatives. They panic. They don't have
Yeah.
money. And that was a time that it's not everything that is being covered under the insurance. There are some medications that they would need. There are some people that they would need to help, especially if they're pregnant. If they have other children, who are they leaving their children with? Who is going to accompany them there? After they deliver, who is going to help them if they've had a cesarean section, who's going to cater for them, who's going to cater for baby, like there was it was challenging for them. So as much as possible they didn't want to go there. So I was very fortunate that he trained me, and that was through practice, learning from mistakes. I remember the first mistake that I did, and then because I was watching and after the cesarean section, there was a bit of blood in the catheter, and I was like, "Doctor, there is blood." That's don't worry. Sometimes it will become clear. So after 20 minutes, they're like it's not coming clear. It's like that's fine. Let's go back to the theater, and then we'll go over. So we went through. And it's like I had picked up a section of the user whilst I was switching. He's like, that's fine. You learn from it. You learn from your mistakes. And so we went through over and over and over again. And he's like, right now that you know it, the next time you are not going to do that. And it was a huge turning point for me. And I did so well that I could operate one previous, two previous CS, three previous. I didn't dare go there unless it comes with some complications that you cannot refer, and then you would have to call in a colleague, and then you have to work harder there. And it was a big hospital, so we used to go through the ward rounds was brutal. Ward rounds could be more than 60 patients. You're starting with the emergency, then you go to the male ward, then you go to the female ward. And of course, you have to look that every medication was given during the night time.
And you were the only doctor there.
It was me and my supervisor. So if he wasn't there, I was there. But he was the medical superintendent, so that meant that the administrative part was also responsible. So he made me a lead clinician. And so I had to step up.
Mm.
I had to step up. Then afterwards, you have to go to the maternity. And that is when you have to identify women who will be able to deliver safely through SVD, and then women who probably need help with cesarean section. Sometimes the mindset was very different. No, my pastor said I don't need cesarean section, or no, someone has a person, if I have cesarean section, I'll die. So sometimes you had to counsel the person and say, we don't want your baby to die. Your baby could be asphyxiated. And so it wasn't just about you need cesarean. It's a mindset. Back home, it's a mindset that you have to get in terms
So
of,
you weren't just the doctor, you were the therapist, you were the psychologist, you were the pastor, and sometimes you even end up paying for some of their
yeah,
their
yeah,
financiers as
yeah,
well.
yeah. There were there were so many times where I had to carry food from home because that time my daughter wasn't eating. I'm like, you're not eating. Their baby's hungry on the ward, and then you bring. There are some times that you call the ambulance and they need money, and you and the nurses
You
you are
buy the
paying
fuel
for them.
yourself.
Yeah. So district. Some people do not even have 50 for food. It's sometimes I would cry on the
You know
sometimes I would
how
cry on
you
the
know
ward when they're
how back
emotional like me.
you know how back in Ghana, people when you are giving IV fluids, you would buy your own IV fluids and then you buy your own giving set. And sometimes patients would have like 2 or 3 extra giving sets on discharge. And I'll go around and I ask, what are you going to do with this giving set? Can I have it for someone next to me? You end up always begging other patients so that you can give their medications, their pethidine, their paracetamol to
Yeah.
someone else who can't afford. Oh my gosh. It
Imagine
was
if someone says, I've paid for them, I'm taking them home. And you go like, what are you going to do? And you have to counsel.
yeah.
I
To
remember
be
there was
fair,
one funny story.
I got some people who said it's mine, I'm taking it home. Well, it's yours, you're entitled to it, you can have it. But then
There,
some people also could see reason and say, oh, do you want it for someone else? Oh yeah, sure, you can have it. Especially with the
yeah,
food.
yeah,
So some people are well to do, they'll come with Milo milk and other things. And when they are going, that time I was doing pediatrics, they'll leave their food behind for you to feed other children with. Because that is the extent of deprivation that we saw when in
yeah,
our practice back at.
yeah. It was quite enlightening. Sometimes I had to, because I remember that I wasn't paid for more than 6 months when I started medical. Yeah. And I was driving over an hour in and over an hour out. And so, and my fuel allowance wasn't even enough. So I remember that at the end of the month, I am in huge deficit.
That's
I am in huge deficit. So sometimes I would go to the pharmacy and I'll plead with them that is there any, pro bono stuff that we could also give to patients. Sometimes I'll go to the blood bank and I'll beg them. I'm like, see, this is a child. This child needs maybe transfusions. We are not going to give the whole thing, but can we, because with every transfusion they have to pay. So I'm like, come on. It's maybe 500 mils of blood. We are going to divide it
just divide it
anyway.
into two.
Exactly.
I think they're always
They're like, you are
there's
trying to
actually
swerve us.
Vicky, there was actually a time that they said there's no that they have to get someone to replace, and I said okay, that's fine, take my blood because
Yeah, yeah,
you're just desperate. You're
yeah,
just
yeah.
desperate.
Desperate, yeah, desperate is calls for desperate measures. But then again, there are some people that you'd go all the way for and they don't even appreciate. There are some, and I saw patients in some of the worst case scenario. You've
Mm,
completed cesarean section, everything, expecting that maybe their husbands will come and care and everything, and then the next minute they come, they're abusing them as well. And
mm,
so you tell them, no, you are not coming to this ward unless you get a good behavior. Your wife is already stressed. I don't want her blood pressure coming up. Um, During that district, I got to realize how people were very naive and ignorant when it comes to health issues. So that was when it led me to public health because that time I was Catholic, so my Reverend Father would come and would go to places like Adibera.
What?
You are
Proper
driving and
remote.
you are not even seeing a car. By the time you come, you are filled with dust from head to toe. And he's like, you have to go and talk to them in terms of high blood pressure. You have to go and talk to them in terms of cervical cancer. What are some of the signs? You have to go, because right now, I don't know whether it was because of the different foods we're taking, we're realizing that some people were coming as such, and but they didn't understand that there had to be reviews, there had to be routine. They didn't understand their body makeup. So we would go to these villages and we would talk, and then we'll urge them that, the fact that their midwife is not able to handle it doesn't mean you can't come to the hospital. And at that time,
Let me ask you quickly, did you notice how people were taking advantage of them, especially these spiritual houses, men of God, prophets, and prayer camps? Prayer
yes,
camps.
yes, yeah. um hmm. It's not easy. There was one I would never forget. There was one lady that I had to do cesarean section for, and that was because the baby was 3.8. Baby had died in the womb,
Mm.
and there was no way. She was one period, so there was no way you can induce her into labor. She can have a rupture. And so I looked into her notes and I realized that during her pregnancy, she had been diagnosed of severe malaria. She was advised to come under admission. And then she was explained that apart from it entering in utero, apart from the risk to baby, anemia, intrauterine growth restriction, and all of that, these are the benefits. She never showed up. So when I was doing, and I didn't like it. I would say I hated it when you have to do a cesarean section and you are bringing out a dead baby. So during I asked her, I'm like, why didn't you come? And she said, oh, Pastor so and so told me that if I come for cesarean section, I would
I'll die.
die. And it just hits me. I'm like, yeah, that person killed your baby. And that time you can't tell her I told you. So afterwards, I really had to counsel her. I'm like, this could have been prevented. Now you have two cuts, and right now that is going to limit. If you have one period, then we can definitely offer you vaginal birth after cesarean section. But if you have two periods, no, nobody would really offer at that time. Nobody really offer. So that means that
You're
the
definitely going to
next
have a third
pregnancy,
cesarean
you're going
section.
to have a third. And I had to explain that, see, when you have loss of cesarean sections, these are the complications. Sometimes surgery really doesn't go so well because of the adhesions, the complications. So I really wanted to tell her that. I'm like, if I were you, I honestly advise myself on that church. And I don't, as I said, I'm a woman of God, but I don't like it when people try to, outsmart people, or, twist God's word, or in order for their gain.
Mm.
So these are some of the experiences and then challenges that I had
Wow.
when it comes to the district.
Let me ask you, Victoria. So you did have an extensive surgical skills, lots of experience in obs and gynae. Why are you a GP?
So when I was coming here, it was actually a debate between obs and gynae and general practitioner. So I did put in the application
Mm-hmm.
on the Oriole, but then they came back and said that I had too much of an experience. So I had to write the exams and come and start ST3. And I think I didn't talk to people who were more open. So the advice, no, 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 start from. And that's the thing. Sometimes
So you
people
didn't
are
get the
trying to
right
present.
guidance.
Yeah, I didn't get the right guidance, number one. But number two, after I explained, I said, yeah, I do have a wealth of experience, but it was over. So I know that I did over I think over 150 or 200 cesarean sections at that part, but it was because I was in the district, or it was because
Yeah.
it was a large catchment area, but it wasn't throughout. So it was over, because in Carrier Twase, I think I spent a year or less. Then there was short break. Then I went to Obuasi Government Hospital, and
Mm-hmm.
then I went to the AG Hospital. So
Mm-hmm.
I said it wasn't continuous. So in that sense, they said, okay, That's fine. We can give you a chance. But I would have a dream, and then in the dream, I would be in the theater with white doctors, white nurses, all gowned, and then I'm holding the knife. So once it's my time, they're like, okay, it's time for the cesarean section, and then I'm holding the scalpel. Then a nurse, one of the theater nurses, will come and say, no, no. So I had to go. For me, I like praying. So I had to go to God and I said, I have these two because I'm actually practicing as a general practitioner anyway. Just that I go ahead and do cesarean session as well. So I was like, these two, I do want enlightenment. What is the best route? And I was tailored to general practice at that time. So I remember there was also one academic where you could do obs and gynae together with academics. And I had been longlisted. I went through longlisting and then the shortlisting, and we were waiting. So once I got the general practitioner, and then I had to wait for the other one, I'm like, no. Because
A
if you
bird
don't
in
pass,
hand is worth nine in the bushes.
yeah,
So you
because
choose
if
what you
if
have.
if I if I lost that one, if I declined and then I waited, I didn't get that one, that means
You'd
that
have
whole
lost
year.
both.
So I did press again, and then I
Yeah.
felt so convinced to do the general practice, and I've never regretted it, because when I started, I have kids. I'm like, oh my goodness, I
Hold on,
don't know how.
hold on. Victoria, you have a very unique story about how you managed to write your exams for your MSRA. Share it with us.
So it was after a very significant period. So that was separation with my husband. And I remember God calling out to me for isolation. So it was a very intense period. So after the isolation, God did speak to me that next year you're going to the UK. This is what you're supposed to do. And then he asked me to contact someone from the past, someone that I had written the PLAB one with, who would never give up on me even when I failed. And I didn't. So the next day, this person contacted me. He's like, where are you, my friend? Am I coming in Ghana? He's like, no, I don't understand why you're still in Ghana. You even passed the plap two before me. What's your number? And so I gave him my number. We started talking. And he's like, do you know there's a pathway you can come straight to training? And I started crying. I'm like, you have no idea. I have 4 kids. I'm stressed. I don't know if I'll be able to study. I don't even know if I want to come anymore. And he's like, excuses, excuses, excuses. So he showed me the part. He's like, it's fine. These are what you have to do. He said, there is past medicine, there is e-medica. And at that time, as I said, I wasn't being paid because I was into a new job. So I said, I don't have money. And I was taking care of a lot of people back home. So he said, start with past medicine. So I started with past medicine. And the time he had contacted me was November. And the exam was in February, either January, February. I'm like, it's too short of a time. He's like, I believe in you. You can do it. So I had to engage with past medicine. And every evening when I come, I leave the kids with my siblings, and then I'll do questions from past medicine and read every night. And then once it was January, by that time I had been paid. So I then had a 1 month subscription of eMedica. I wish I had gone through everything. I couldn't. But then I wrote it, and I remember I told you that before the MSR, it was supposed to be in Nigeria because they didn't have it in Ghana. So I had booked flights, I had booked hotel, and when that time was coming, all 4 of my kids got sick. So I was like, God, this cannot be happening. And then the other crazy thing that happened was they put in the news from Nigeria that when you get to Nigeria, you're supposed to quarantine for 7 days or whatever. So that meant that I would miss the exam.
By the time you finish the quarantine, the exam is done.
The exams, and I didn't have that luxury to be out of work for that, out of the kids. So I remember I messaged so many people in the UK, and the one who responded was Dr. Rahman. Wherever Dr. Rahman is, God bless you.
Dr.
From
Rahman of eMedica, isn't
of
it?
eMedica.
Oh,
He
bless him.
didn't know me from anywhere, but I messaged him. I said, I've subscribed to it. I'm going to do the MSRE. This is my issue. And then he said, talk to, I don't know whether he said talk to GMC or Oriel but he gave me the right procedure. So I called them and then they said, well, you have to cancel. So I cancel, I had to cancel flight, cancel exam, cancel everything. And then they're like, yeah, we can't guarantee because nobody writes it home. But at this level, we can let you do it online. But yeah, and there is not supposed to be any sound, strong internet connection, and we are in Ghana.
And you got 4 kids.
I got 4 kids who are
No
6,
sound.
and yeah, and the last one was actually at the emergency because he had viral induced wheeze, he couldn't breathe. Anyway, so many things going on. So God said that's fine, and then they made their way, and then they said, yeah, this is what you have to do. So I remember the day of the exam, I had to send all the kids away from the house, and then it was left with my youngest with the nanny upstairs because there was scheduled nebulization. How I wrote that exam,
The
I don't
rest
know,
is
but it was,
history. You are here now.
I am here. It was a miracle, and then I passed it. And here I came straight to training, which people told me that was crazy because I didn't have any NHS experience. I'd been here before for my master's program, but here you don't do that. So I was the first one of my kind that I knew during this training without NHS experience, and bringing 3 out of my 4 kids to this training as a single parent.
So, guys, you understand why I said not all superheroes have capes. And I thought what I heard that there was a Ghanaian lady who has relocated straight from Ghana with no NHS experience. I thought, okay, that must be hard. And then they said, oh wait, she's a single mom. I said, oh okay. And they said she came with 3 of her children. I said, oh my God, she must be nuts. Are they? Because I was expecting that they would say, oh maybe she came with a 21-year-old and an 18-year-old and maybe a 16-year-old. So I was thinking, well, they are independent, they can take care. She said the last one is 2 or 3. I said, hey,
Yeah, had just turned 2.
hey, how are you going to manage? So tell us, how did you do it? Because now you finished training.
It was crazy hard. The first few months, I was lucky because my elder daughter came with them. So she helped with sending them to school. But because she was in uni, she had to go. I didn't have a car, and I used to, I would say hitch ride, but sometimes I would go with some colleagues to other places, like to some post bus, and it was crazy. The other crazy aspect was the childcare. It drained me. It was half or more than half of my salary. One thing that I was so grateful for in terms of where I was practiced was I begged them that the break that I had, because my kids were in different places. My youngest was in a nursery, and my 2 others were in another primary school because they didn't get catchment in. So I had to use my break time to go and pick them from school because they didn't have any after school club, and bring them to the nursery and then come back to work. So that was what my break time was for. So that
So
30
wait,
minutes of
instead
break
of
time.
instead of taking your lunchtime break around 12, you decided to forgo of the usual
Yeah.
lunchtime break, and then you decided to use your lunchtime break after 3
Yep.
for school runs.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I begged them, and they're like, yeah, that's okay. So that meant me rushing around between the hours of 3:30, and then I would rush, go pick them up, drop them in the nursery, and then come back to work. So after work, then I would make sure that I am closing 10 minutes to 6. And that because the after school club closed at 6 o'clock. So I was fortunate
And
that
how
the
how
nursery,
far was the after school club from your workplace?
So it was very good. It was like 3 minutes
Okay.
because it was just around the corner. So I
Okay.
was
And
so
you're still not
fortunate.
driving.
No, so at that time I had a car, which people also said I was crazy because I came with an international license,
So
and
insurance.
I didn't have the driving experience. But I wasn't like any other person. I couldn't afford taxis. I couldn't afford that private car. So I had to start driving whilst incorporating driving lessons in between in order to get my UK license.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's why people told me that I was nuts. So that was my, so because I had some delayed tasks. I had to make sure that I was closing just before 6, and then I'll pick them, and then we'll get home. Sometimes we'll get home 6:30. Sometimes we have to go grocery before we come. So it's 7, then 7, make sure that they eat, make sure that we are doing homework before letting them sleep, and then that is me. So most of the times I'm holding my books, I'm gone because I'm totally burned out. I'm exhausted. And I did full-time training. So it wasn't like it was a less than full-time training where you say, oh, Thursday, I'm going to be off to have a catch-up of sleep. Or so my eyes were always red. And I remember one, yeah, because sometimes you are laying in bed and your child will come, Mom, I can't sleep. Mom, I had a nightmare. Mom, I'm sick. So sometimes my youngest, because he was so young, he would come. And I remember one of the nights, for some reason, he came to lie next to me. And I woke up just before 3 a.m. and he couldn't breathe. And he was so feverish. Temperature was 40. And it's just me and the kids. 3 a.m. So I called the ambulance. Patient breathing here. But I'm like, yeah, I'm a doctor. These are the stats. Temperatures over 40, respiratory rate is beyond 30. I'm worried. Using accessory muscles. And then when they came, they were like, yeah, Mom, you need to go with us to the hospital. I'm like, I have to bring my young kids and I can't leave them because it was 8 years and 9 years that time. So we all had to go to the hospital, and then oxygen, nebulizing, and then I had to call in our pastor. I'm like, I'm in a fix. It was around 5 a.m. I have my kids. So he's like, that's fine. I'll send my wife. We'll come and pick the older kids. You stay with the youngest. And so I insisted, I'm like, I know that there is an outbreak of COVID in the nursery. Can you please do a COVID test? And then initially they were like, no, we don't think so. But later when they did it, like, yeah, COVID. So yeah. So we stayed in the hospital a bit and then we had to come home. And that was also a tricky when you're a full-time trainee and then you have to get leave for your kid. You know how the dynamics is different. You know how sometimes people can say, oh, you're being inefficient or you're being, it's very tricky. Where sometimes some people might call you maybe incapable in a way because sometimes the kids are requiring some time. And then I had never been known like that before. Like for someone to say, "Oh, you're being inefficient or anything." So I always had to step up a notch. So there were some times that because I had to cover for the surgery in the out of hours, so I would use those times for the days where the kids were sick so that it will balance out and then I'm not asked to stay back to complete. So I always had to juggle it some way, somehow. And I always had to go beyond so that I'll not be tagged as inefficient. So yeah, there were some times that I spoke to my educational supervisor.
Ask you, did anybody say that you were inefficient, or were you just afraid that that might be the situation if you don't make up for it?
No, so there was a particular period in my ST1 that my child had a car accident on walking to school, and then I didn't know that her teeth were broken because she can really withstand pain. So we went to the hospital, we came back, and then I had to look at her teeth and I realized that, oh my God, she actually had damage. And I hadn't realized because she had just kept it. So I called and I know you have to call 111 and then book for an emergency dentist appointment. So I remember I was supposed to go to work but I had the emergency dental.
Dental
So
appointment.
yeah, so
And
I
you
had
know
to
how
say,
dental appointments are like gold dust in this
yeah,
country.
exactly. So I said, I am so sorry. I wouldn't be able to come to it because my daughter had an emergency. And I had a person, yeah, you are in the fish. At that time, it was like a big slap on my face because I know how hardworking I am. And I wouldn't be, I'm like, my child has nobody. It's just me.
Single mom.
It's just me. And then I went to the dental appointment. They're like, no, she would need a repair. And then later on in life, she might need braces. She's wearing braces right now. So luckily, I was able to go with her, make sure that she was okay. But then at least the follow up, because I was afraid I would be tagged as inefficient again. I had to beg our pastor to go with her. So it was a review. So I was very fortunate enough to get someone to go with her. And then yeah, so I remember that I cried. I spoke to my educational supervisor, and then he's like, "It's okay. Some of these things, people do not really understand your situation and what you're going through." And as a woman, so he made me talk to our TPD, and he said, "I don't even know how you're doing it. You're a phenomenal woman." When I realized that the things that you are going through. He said, I was just talking to myself, oh my goodness, this lady is a mother, this lady is a father, this lady is a doctor, this lady is a GP trainee, this lady is all that. And then my education boy, he said, see, we are happy that your 6 months you're doing an ITP post, and then the next 6 months you're still doing the same GP training in that same practice. So at least you'll be able to save yourself and buffer it up so that people would know that this is not how, because I was so distraught. I was like, never in my career.
Has anybody called me incompetent?
Because like back home I had family support, so it was back to back. Everyone was like, oh, Dr. Victoria, Dr. Victoria. And then you
Yeah,
come here because you're not getting that support.
yeah.
People feel that but yeah, it was still an enlightening experience for me. So yeah, I was able to save myself. There were lots of stuff that I needed to learn. And for that one, I knew that, yeah, I had to step up. And because I decided, I mean, God had told me, don't leave your kids at home, but it was my decision to bring the kids. So that meant I had to step up. That meant that I had to find a way, because in life, if you always dwell on excuses, you would never amount to what God has called you to be. So I had
Mm.
to make sure that I was putting in structures. Times where I could ask people for help, I could. Sometimes help could come with some conditions. So then you know that, okay, this place I can't ask for help anymore because it's getting too personal. But
I'm
at that
interested. What
time,
were some of the conditions that came with the help? I'm
no,
keen. Now that you've mentioned, because Victoria is a very beautiful lady, so to think that she's a single lady and she's asking, now I'm interested. What were some of the T's and C's that came with the help?
you can identify. Yeah, some of them, they would want to encroach in your private stuff, and
Mm,
is there a potential, or is there? So I had to say no and then
mm,
cut them off, because when you're a single parent, you get thrown stuff. you
mm,
know Sometimes people feel like you're desperate, so they can take advantage of you. So it's one of the things where I coach women that before you become a single parent, make sure that you really understand the implications out there, because people are going to try. But if you don't know yourself, and if you don't know what people are capable of, you'd find yourself in a very delicate situation. And that was a situation that I didn't want to find myself. So yeah, there were some people that I had to stop asking for help, and that meant more challenges. But I had to go through childminders, breakfast club, ask, the rotations that I was doing, that please, breakfast club starts at 8. I can't be at work at 8. Can I start 30 minutes after? And then let's say my shifts like A&E is from 8 to 4. Can I start 8:30 and then close 4:30? And then I would go and they're like, oh, that's okay. We understand your situation. So yeah, it involved lots of stuff. So I tell people that please just go to the supervisor. They are human beings. Yeah, sometimes they would push, but because sometimes it's also about the department and staffing and how our patients handling, and they don't really want personal circumstances to affect it. But as long as you're doing your work, and for me, I've always seen myself as a hard work. So as long as you are meeting the targets, then they don't see why not. And I remember that I had Blessing. So she is also a friend, junior colleague, and that time she really came to help. So she was such a blessing. Her name is Baba. She was also such a blessing. And then she came to my house, and then she's like, sis, I would help you. So we did a house share at some particular point, and then she helped me with the kids. Times where I'm not around, she would be there for the kids, like night duty. So she was at home and things like that. So I've been very successful now because of some people that really stood by me, and then that helped, and that stepped in as well. Yeah.
That's really touching because I mean, I see you go about every day, and I said, I can't do this. I can't. But maybe because I've not been pushed. When I get there, I may be able to, but I admire you so much how you are able to juggle them. So tell me, how were your exams, your experience? Because in GP, we take two types of exams. How did you manage the kids, scale through your exams, and come out? How did you do it?
So initially,
Oh, bless you.
yeah. So I didn't start studying for AKT until I think second year. I'm like, oh, I'm really going to try. But I didn't. So I didn't make it. AKT, I failed twice. And I remember the first time it was 3 marks. I was like, you know my situation. And you know you're studying, you know that okay, you have group study and everything, and then you have to come back. And then you have to realign yourself, and then you have to try. And I remember as at last year, so for me, I always speak with God. Like, here, book for April. And so I booked for April, and that was my ST3. And you know how some colleagues can belittle you, you know how some GP partners, and I remember one particular one, like when I'm debriefing, every time you're asking, have you passed AKT? Have you passed AKT? And I remember that there was one particular time that I couldn't go to work for 2 days because I was so crushed. And I tell people that that's why it's very good to have people who have positive energy and words of affirmation.
Mm,
And because it takes, sometimes we don't always wake up happy. Sometimes we don't always wake up full of motivation and energy because of previous stuff that's happened. So for me, some of these ones, you have to wake up and you have to speak positivity and you have to pray, and then you go to work, and this is why this is happening. So I remember for that 2 days there was a strike time, and sometimes because of issues with finances, it wasn't every strike that I could take. But that time I'm like, I'm staying home, I'm engaging in the strike, but I was so down. And there was this sermon that I heard. It's like, when you are using a water hose, you can use the water is just coming through. It said, when you apply pressure, it's a different
force
experience.
that
You're able
makes it
to
come.
get a
Yes.
wider area. And she's like, that pressure that you are applying, that is how you're able to, clear a longer. And the person described the challenges that we face, that sometimes the challenges are really meant to push us. So I put it in my mind. I'm like, yep, I'm going to show this person, not as a revenge, but I'm going to push myself more, and then so the person can stop taunting me, because I know what I bring to the table when it comes to patient work. I'm very diligent. I have great communications. But the thing is, people do not look at that. All people are looking at is, what is the outcome? What is the outcome? So I remember one of the GP partners called me, and it was a very good 20, 30 minutes. And he says, I've seen your work, I've seen your consultation, you're a good doctor. Tell me what the issue is. What is really worrying you? Tell me your background. So after I told him, it's like, you mean to say that these are your challenges? He's like, my goodness. Now, what is the plan? I was like, you don't understand. He's like, no, no, no. see, bring your mom over. And he's like, I know that financial constraints and everything, but look at the long term. And I was so fortunate he gave me a rundown of some of his personal experiences. And he said, I have been in that challenging situation for her, but I had to look at the long term. And in the
It
short
is a
term, I had
man.
to,
Man.
yes,
Okay,
yes, it's
that's
a
fine.
man. And he said, so look at it in terms of that way. Sometimes you have to block your mind, and sometimes you have to just go ahead and look at the benefits. He said, when you're done with your exams, you'll be able to think of all the other problems. He said, there are some things that you can't delve with them right now. There are some things that you cannot do anything about your situation right now. What can you change about your situation? So even though it was I was debriefing with him that day, but so even though it was 20, 30 minutes, it twisted something in my head. So I said, okay. So I came back. I'm like, this is the plan. So I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, this is the plan. I need you here. I know that you're working, but I need you here. And then she said, okay. So at that time, I had formed another study group, and I've posted on LinkedIn about how the study group that I formed again was everyone who had failed AKT. Some had their last attempt, but I said,
So you were
it's,
picky about who could join. If you
yeah,
haven't failed, you
because
can't.
we wouldn't have had that problem if you hadn't, but it's everybody was, we have to do this. So I said it's called Done April.
Wow.
That is it. So everybody came with suggestions, whatever, and that was it. And I remember talking to one lady who she was almost giving up, and I remember it was a 1 hour long conversation where we were motivating. I'm like, no, we are doing this. And then she came up with the idea of, okay, let's wake up at 5 and solve questions before the kids wake up. Because I barely get enough sleep anyway. But I'm like, no, let's do this. There were some times that, yeah, sleep took the better part. But she instilled in us that discipline. And every Saturday, we would wake up and we'd do GP self test, 200, without any. So we'll wake up like 5:30 or 6 a.m. and we'll do it at a stretch, like we're preparing for the main exam. And so
That
that
brings a
was
lot
what.
of memories. That was what I did.
That was good. So yeah, I mean, when after he had that talk with me, my supervisor called me and he said, I would actually recommend less than full-time training for you
Mm.
because now I know that. And he's like, how come you've been able to carry
All
on?
the while.
Yeah, all that as full-time. So, and I had other people also recommend less than full-time training. So I came back to God. I'm like, God, I have my AKT in April and I've also booked my SCA in June. And yeah, that's a crazy not story. So I said, because God told me that I would be completing GP training in 3 years, the exact 3 years.
Mm.
So I went back to God. I'm like, God, you know that technically, physically, this is impossible. And that's what everybody is trying to tell me. So people who were so negative during my first and they told me I was crazy and I didn't listen. Right now, they were looking at
I
me
told
like,
you so.
we told you so. Look at how it is now. So I said, God, I'm looking like a fool right now. People are looking at me like they told me so and I didn't listen. What is the plan? Is it still move on or is it cut back so that I can breathe? And God said, no, still go ahead. Do the April and then in June do the SC. So I said, thank you very much for your advice. I will do that. Then he looked at me like,
Yeah.
and then April came and then I wrote it. And then God said, don't rest. If you use even like 2, 3 days of rest, he said, all the 2.5 years that you spend is going to come and compound. So you are going to be overwhelmed and you'll not be able to do your SCA.
Mm.
So after I wrote April, that Wednesday, I only had that Thursday to rest, and then Friday I was back at work. I had
Wow.
portfolio, I have prescription, you have you have
All the
lots of
bits and
things to do,
bobs of your
CBD
e-portfolio to
cards,
do.
and I wasn't fully engaged in SCA at that time. And this was me going to prepare with people who had passed AKT the previous year and they had taken a year to prepare for SCA. And I have just few weeks. I'm like, I don't know. But so even in that group study, I was never the person who they'll say, "Oh, you were so ready." All that they said, "Oh, you have great communication skills." My management plan, I really had people to help me. Those where I was in a group study with. You're like, okay, this is how we've led for a year. These are how, you have to say it. These are how you have to bring the patient along. And I was very fortunate. Thank God for you, Hannah, that you had
Yay! Thank
told
God for
me.
me.
Yeah, you had told me that I was supposed to record myself, even though it wasn't the RC anymore, it was the SCA. You told me to start recording myself. I didn't have a lot of recordings, but I made sure that those that I did have during our CBD and court, I would let a supervisor or a GP trainer or a partner listen and then give me feedback. Some of them were harsh, some of them enlightening, but I always tell people that when people are giving you a feedback, make sure that you put a sieve. If you say you're only going to dwell on the negative, you'll be so crushed,
Mm-hmm.
demotivated, you will not be able to go through. So I took those feedback very seriously, and I put in a common theme into the way I introduced myself, and then the common theme that was running was the social aspect, you know. And I used to argue my was like, but I'm able to draw the social aspect anyway. And then the trainer said, unfortunately, no, I'm marking as an examiner. I want to hear you asking how their health, how it's impacted their social life, how it's
And it's
impacted their
amusing
work
that
life.
you are going through it yourself, but you're not asking people.
Can you imagine? I am not asking. So I said, okay, so I had to make sure that I restructured my
Mm-hmm.
consultation, from the open question. I used not to be good with open questions, but through that group study, group study, what I got was introduction, open question, Victoria, open question, always
Mm-hmm.
have open question. So I was able to blend that and then the feedback from what I was getting from my video, and then I worked my structure up. And then because my communication skills was good, I didn't really have to do much with my communication skills. But then management plan, because I had just few weeks, so just try and help myself with what was the management plan. So by the time the AKT results was in, I had just 11 days for the SCA. And then we so and then I went to do the SCA, and I so when it came, like I remember when the AKTK was screaming in the house, I lost my voice. And I
Wow.
told God, even if I don't pass the SCA, I'll be fine. Because at least right now, nobody will be able to taunt me anymore.
Have you passed your AK?
Yeah. So the SCA came, and it's not like I passed over one or two. It's like,
Wow.
and I remember the kids screaming, my mom screaming. We were on the floor. We're thanking God. Like such an impossible feat. But with God, all things are possible.
Mm.
And I had worked hard. And I was so thankful that my mom was there, because in the evening during group study, then she would help the kids with extra homework and then to put them to bed so that I can concentrate on the group study work. So yeah, that's my story on the two exams.
That's really, really inspiring. And what I take from this, Victoria, is that through this, when we are giving feedbacks, we know what we didn't like, so we are not going to perpetuate it. And we
Yeah,
know how we felt when the person was taunting you. So, and for me, what I tell myself that I know what not to do as a clinical supervisor, because I've had some really bad clinical supervisors. So I know what a bad example of a clinical supervisor is, and I don't want to be that person. So whenever I'm supervising anybody or I'm giving feedback, I literally pause and reflect, and I say, am I being like S? Okay, if I'm being like S, I come back. Because I do not want to be like that person, because it was really horrible. And if I didn't have my own
traumatic.
self-esteem, if I didn't have my own self-esteem, if I didn't have good support, and I didn't have that strength, I would have broken down, because this person will cut you down with his words. By the time you go home, you feel so like good for nothing.
Yes, that's the word. You feel worthless. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I
And I
told
think
you that
he
I've
enjoyed
had
it.
my share.
I think he just enjoyed it.
Some people enjoy it. Honest. Do you know what I've realized, Hannah? Is I've realized that people like that, they had people who did that to them.
Well, we are going to break that
No,
cycle.
no, no.
It
I
ends
mean,
with
yeah,
us.
yeah.
It ends with
I've
us.
had,
We don't want
yeah,
to be like
yeah.
that.
No, but and that's my issue. So, I mean, it's just like parenting, isn't it? Where sometimes our parents' parental skills get trickled to us, and then
Yes.
we are also
So
doing
you
that, and
have
then we have to
generational trauma being
we have to
passed on
come
and
back and
passed on.
yeah, we have to get back like, oh my goodness, these were the
No.
same kind of things that I didn't like. So I have to
Mhm.
reflect and then I have to change. But yeah, there are some people whose words are cutthroat, and then you have to come and gather energy again, and then it will still cut you down. Sometimes it's either, and the thing is what those supervisors don't realize is that sometimes it gets to a time where they become ineffective anymore because
Yes.
you build like a metallic suit
Yes. So you don't even
that
hear them.
whatever gets take care
It's like water off the
it
back of
goes
the duck, isn't it? You just shake it
yeah.
off.
So yeah, they don't understand why sometimes they are taunting and then it's not effective. That person is not crying anymore.
Mm.
And then they'll make you feel worthless. But yeah, it's just as you said that it helps you reflect and think, and then now you're able to give very good feedbacks, and then you explain. So I remember this week I had a rigorous supervisor. Dot your I's and T's, and oh my goodness. There were times
Fine.
that we
I
would
don't
fight.
mind someone who
No,
makes me
he was
be on
very
my
good.
toes. But if you try to insult me, I know I don't like.
No, so my supervisor never insulted me, but he pushed me. Dot your I's and T's. And then there was one thing that he said. One thing he said. He said, you bleed with me in here so that nobody will cut you out there. So he said, I'm being very rigorous because once you get out of there, I'm not your supervisor anymore.
Mm.
And then something such as negligence, and there are some things that your license may be compromised.
Rounding up, if you were to go back and advise yourself, what advice would you give to yourself at the beginning of your career?
I would say most times your instincts are right about people.
Mm.
Do not be afraid to test people more. I would say anybody is capable of doing anything, so do not be so sure about people.
Hmm.
I would tell myself that no matter the challenges that you face, the first person to go to is God. I would also tell myself that make sure that you know yourself more and know who you are in God. Otherwise, people will tell you who you are.
Hmm.
And so by the time you discover yourself, you would grow to really resent what people said about you.
Yeah.
In terms of career, I would tell my younger self that do not take what people say face value. Sometimes people will project their insecurities and negativity into you. Everybody is different. The fact that something has not been done before doesn't mean that you cannot do it. You
Mhm.
just need the right direction and you need the right people that you think will be a dynamic fit into your journey. Career wise, I would say not everyone goes with you throughout your journey and even in life. There are some people that will stay constant to through your childhood, through your career, growing up. There are some people that will come at every stage in time. Make sure that when it's time for you to, I won't say cut the personal, but it's time for you to move on. You are not dragging everyone through different
Along. Yeah,
stages
you're
in
not
life.
carrying dead
Yes.
weight.
Yeah, it was something that I found it very difficult. Career wise, I would say that no matter the experiences that you have in life, you would definitely be encouraging into new territory. Make sure that you're not proud. Make sure that you're not judgmental. Make sure that you are a team player and you do take into consideration every feedback that people actually say. because it could save your life, it could save your career. And so constructive feedback is key. Make sure that when people are giving you feedback, you just don't jump into offense, no matter where they are coming from. Even with people that you think will hate you, there might be some common themes that run through that you should pick up out of all the negative comments. Just make sure that you're picking up a common theme and you make sure that you are going to improve on yourself. And then for me, I am my biggest competition. So I tend not to be jealous about people, about their achievements, about what they've attained, because everyone is different. I feel like the sky is big enough to host a billion of stars. So I am very encouraged when I see my colleagues, my friends, I'm really doing well, and I wish them the best. I'm like, girl, can you also take me along? I feel like we can encourage each other in terms of career. Um, I've been through people who they would try and, just cut you down because they feel like they want to be the biggest stars, but that is up to you. In terms of marital advice, I would say make sure you know yourself first, make sure you know your values, and make sure that the person that you are going to choose, because that person can either break you or make you, make sure that your values align. Sometimes what people present to you at the first run is actually who they are. Make sure that anything that you classify as red flags, that you talk to yourself and you talk to God first, and make sure that you don't let other people dissuade you, because at the long run, you are the one who is going to be in the relationship. It's not your mom, it's not your dad, it's not your siblings. Anything that you're going to face is going to be you. Make sure that the person that you're choosing is kind, person that you're choosing is not out for revenge. Make sure that the person that you choose touches very key aspects of your life. So, in terms of career, in terms of um, spiritual, in terms of emotional, psychological, and also physical. There are different aspects that the person has to touch before you classify yourself as compatible. I do think that they will play key roles. I do think that all of us might have people that will fit into. So it's not like people are very terrible per se, but I think so. Even if someone might be terrible for me for marriage, that person can be a godsend for another person in a different setting, and vice versa. You make sure that you understand your love language and then the person's love language. There always has to be a compromise. Make sure that you are loving yourself. Make sure you don't choose yourself last. I do feel that, especially for women, sometimes we take care of every other person and we ignore ourselves. Make sure that wherever you are getting strength from, that you keep on nourishing yourself with that strength. You are motivating yourself and you are speaking positively into yourself as well. That will get you through a long journey. Yeah.
Thank you for coming to water us. I feel really nourished and you've given me a lot to chew on, especially the latter bits. As you're saying it, I was just ticking some boxes in my head. I'm thinking, am I doing this? Am I doing this? Am I doing this? But I think you've just left me with a lot to go and reflect and take action. It has been absolutely, oh, fantastic sitting with you and getting to know you better. And also, thank you for being professionally generous and sharing your life with myself and with the audience. I have no doubt that your story will be an inspiration to many.
Thank you very much, Hannah, for having me. It's such a privilege, actually, to invite me on your podcast. You're doing great things. Your story is out there, and yeah, they're actually encouraging people, knowing that they are not alone. That some people are facing challenges such as themselves, and then hopefully this podcast goes a long way on bringing and then helping each other. Yeah.
The pleasure is all mine. You didn't tell us about your Facebook prayer sessions. Invite us to come and pray.
So yeah, you can send the link, and then yeah, I don't want to take much of your time. Yeah, but yeah, there are
So
prayer
Victoria does
sessions
prayer
for
session
women.
on Facebook on Thursdays. Please do
Yeah.
join her so that God will speak to you, because she keeps on saying, and God said, and God said, and God said. If you're not hearing God, go so that God will pop your ears so you can hear. Like we say to children, turn on your listening ears. Right. So until we catch up again next time, please don't forget to comment, share, like, and recommend this to another friend to hear about it. Okay. Bye for now.